So the Avnei Nezer, the Binyan Shloima, the Chelkes Yayev say, person is not mechuyev to fall ill to be Makayim and Mitzvah. Kal v'choyma ein odom mechayev lebazbez hoyin ra'av al hamitzvos. If you don't need to spend $500, bal tashchis the gufa odif, bal tashchis the mamoina. So if it really makes you sick, you're potter. Would we define this as being sick? I mean, you're overweight and you want to lose weight. And sometimes the doctor says it's important that you lose weight because being extremely overweight could be, a hazard to your health. Even though we know many skinny people that are very ill, or we know many heavy people that are, Baruch Hashem, doing very well. And even if you stop your Ozempic, you still could go back on. Nothing that's going to happen these 2 or 3 weeks when you go back to where you were just 2 months ago. That was okay. So the psak would be yes. But many people, if I stop, it'll be very hard to start again. And definitely will be stressful. So I say, you can rely on smaller shiurim. And I don't want to get into details, but I wrote in my sefer, so I am mishtadel to keep the Chazon Ish shiurim, like most Bnei Torah, why not? But al pi halacha, I think Ezayas is Ezayas. So I don't know whether you're familiar. I think Minchas Shas Shuvas Chelik Beis, I think it's one of the most amazing shuvas I ever wrote. So the Chazon Ish shiurim are actually the Tzlach shiurim. The Noida B'Yehuda was 200 years almost before the Chazon Ish. And Reb Chaim Noah's shiur is the shir of the world before the Tzlach tossed it all up. What happened when the Noida B'Yehuda decided to double the shiurim? When he came to Prague, there was a kli that was used by the Tosis Yom Tov to determine shir of Rosh Hashanah, which is Mem Gimel Beitzer. The Noida B'Yehuda checked with his boys, and he found a terrible discrepancy between the shir he determined and the kli of the Tosis Yom Tov. What do we do? If his shiurim came out almost double the size of the kli that the Tosis Yom Tov used for Mem Gimel Beitzer for Shir Chala. And that is why the Noida decided that Niskatnu HaBeitzim, and we need to double the shiurim. So it all started with a discrepancy between shiurei nefech and shiurei orech. Shiurei orech is the etzba. Shiurei nefech is the beitza and the zayis. So the vikuach between Reb Chaim Noah and the Chazon Ish, the Noida B'Yehuda and his Barei Plukta is this the agudal or this? So it was always taken for granted, this is the agudal, top. And that's the Noida B'Yehuda shir. Reb Chaim Noah said, no, maybe we need to turn our finger around, and this is quite smaller than this, a third smaller. Comes the Minchas Osher and he says, maybe we need to think about a third possibility. And that is, Kol Adinim Shetluim Ba'orech, Lenetzach Netzochem Shiurei Orech Kovim. Shiurim Shetluim Benefach, Lenetzach Netzochem, Beitzim and Zeisim will determine. And when the Gemara says Rav Kahana determined Orech and Nefach, that is not Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. That was in his time. But every generation needs to be Kaveh Shiurim, because the Chazon Ish himself brings Tshuvas HaGaonim. And Tshuvas HaGaonim is so sensible, and the Chazon Ish calls it Tshuvas HaGaonim. And it is not clear why he rejects it. The Goinim say, why did Chazal give shiurim by things that are part of nature? Because if Chazal would speak about any other yardstick, how would we know thousands of years later what that shear was? And that is exactly the problem with the dram, which is a Turkish coin. How much did it weigh? Who knows? And that is why Chazal gave us shiurei orech, etzba, amo, shiurei nefach, beitze, zayis. So I say, regarding Tchum Shabbos, Asorat Vochem Besukah, Asorat Vochem Mechitzah Shabbos, we will for Netzach use the amo and the etzba. Regarding Mitzvah Shebachila, we will always use the zayis and the beitze. So who says we need to figure out what Rav Kahana said 2,000 years ago? So that's my approach. And that is Shuvas HaGoinim. That's what the Goinim said in their time. So, B'shas Adchak, I say, Ezayis is Ezayis. And that will always be. And therefore, I say a Bruch Achroina on a relatively small piece of cake. Sometimes there's a Kiddush in the morning in Shul. The person brings cake from home. The cakes you have at home, you know whether they're tasty or not. So, if you want to say a Bruch Achroina, eat a shir of the Chazon Ish. If you're in Shul and the cake tastes awful, you don't want to eat a kazayis. And if everybody is going to eat the Chazon Ish kazayis, after 3 people there will be nothing left. So the guy that brings tikkun in the morning, you know, Hasidim bring tikkun when there's a yahrzeit. Probably in your shul they don't do that. Do they in your shul?
Some Hasidim.
Okay. So I say you could say a Bruch Achroina on a piece of mezonos or a pri that is as big as an olive. Lechumra, I say, not the tiny little ones, but there are the big olives, which would be this big, not this big, like the little olives, this size, and you could say a Bruch Achroina. And that is based on the Shuvas HaGoinim. And that is based on my shitta, that you don't need to double the size of shiurei nefach shiatim l'shiurei orech. Leave shiur halachas sheba orech, leave shiurei orech. Halachas sheba nefach, leave with shiurei nefach. I think that would make more sense than any other approach. So my pshat to this person was, if you could eat 2 zeis and matzah and drink malay lugum of dalet koises of either wine or grape juice, you don't need to stop your treatment. But if you can't do that, you need to stop. Okay, so we discussed some interesting halachas regarding Pesach and primarily Sepi Yetzias Mitzrayim. Kosher Friday.